The wind came in hard across the fields, bending the winter grass flat against the sodden earth. At Butler's farm, the sky hung low and metallic, as if it too was waiting for something to break. It wasn't the first disaster the Dingles had weathered. It wouldn't be the last. But this one felt different. The sheep had bolted when the old boundary wall gave way in the night, scattering toward the flooded lower pasture. By dawn, half the flock was stranded on a shrinking patch of mud, hemmed in by rising water from the swollen beck. The storm had turned the land treacherous. Cain Dingle stood at the edge of the field, boots sinking deep, jaw tight. His body felt heavier these days. The letter folded in his jacket pocket weighed more than the sky above him. He hadn't told anyone about the cancer. Not properly. Moira was locked up, fighting her own battles behind prison walls. The farm was teetering, and the Tates, smug, circling, patient, were waiting for him to falter. He wouldn't give them the satisfaction. Right, Cain muttered to himself, striding forward. Let's sort this. He waded into the icy water without hesitation, grabbing at the first frightened ewe. The animal thrashed, panicked, but he held firm, dragging her towards safer ground. His breath came short and sharp. His muscles burned faster than they used to. Halfway back, he stumbled. Just for a second. But it was enough. A hand shot out, steadying him. Careful, came a calm voice. Cain jerked away as though burned. What are you doing here? Graham Foster stood solid and composed despite the chaos, coat collar turned against the wind. He didn't look like a man who belonged in a flooded field. He looked like he belonged in boardrooms and battle plans. I heard about the sheep, Graham said evenly. Figured you might need help. I don't need anything from you. Especially not you. Suit yourself, Graham replied, already moving past him toward another stranded animal. Cain swore under his breath, but he didn't stop him. They worked in tense silence, hauling sheep one by one from the mud. The wind howled. Rain stung their faces. More than once, Cain felt the edges of his strength fraying, his vision narrowing. Graham noticed. You're not well, he said quietly after they reached dry land with another ewe. I'm fine. You're exhausted. Mind your own business. Graham held his gaze a moment too long. There was something different there, less calculation, more concern. Cain hated it. By midday, they'd saved most of the flock. A few were lost. It could have been worse. The farm hands drifted off, grateful and drained. Cain stayed behind, leaning against the fence post, chest heaving. You don't have to fight every battle alone, Graham said. Cain laughed bitterly. That's rich. Since when did you care? Since I realized loyalty isn't the same as obedience. Cain studied him carefully. Joe put you up to this?
No.
Kim. Graham hesitated. Just enough. Cain's eyes darkened. Thought so. They want the farm, Graham admitted. They think with Moira inside and you distracted, it's vulnerable. Cain's hand instinctively brushed his jacket pocket. Graham noticed that too. I wasn't going to say anything, Graham continued. About the letter. Rage flared in Cain's chest. You went through my things? I was sent to take your car keys. Not your dignity. Cain stepped forward, fury and fatigue colliding. You've got no right. You're right, Graham said calmly. But neither do they. The words hung between them. You think I don't know what they're planning? Graham added. Sabotage. Machinery failures. Make it look like mismanagement. Force a sale. Cain's expression shifted, anger giving way to calculation. And you're telling me this because? Because a man fighting for his family deserves to know who's swinging at him. A beat of silence passed. You expect me to trust you?
Cain asked.
No, Graham replied. But I expect you to survive. Before Cain could answer, a car engine sounded in the distance. A sleek vehicle crested the hill, Joe Tate behind the wheel. Joe stepped out, surveying the scene with faint amusement. Well, he drawled. Isn't this heartwarming? Enemies playing shepherd together. Cain squared his shoulders. Got something to say it. Joe's eyes flicked to Graham. I sent him to test you. Looks like he's failed. Maybe he passed, Graham replied coolly. Joe's smile thinned. I asked you to prove your loyalty. And I am, Graham said, by advising you to rethink your strategy. Driving him into the ground won't get you the farm faster. It'll make him reckless. Joe studied him carefully. You're growing sentimental. Strategic, Graham corrected. Joe turned back to Cain. Enjoy the reprieve. It won't last. As Joe drove off, tension lingered like static. Cain exhaled slowly. You just burned your bridge. Perhaps, Graham said. Why? Graham looked out over the fields, where rescued sheep huddled together. Because some things aren't business. Cain didn't respond, but something in his expression softened. That evening, the woolpack buzzed with muted chatter. Cain stood at the bar, nursing a drink he barely tasted. Graham entered quietly. Eyes followed him. Whispers sparked. Cain met his gaze. For a moment, the old rivalry flickered, but then Cain extended his hand. A murmur rippled through the pub. Graham took it. Across the room, Kim Tate watched with narrowed eyes. They're aligning, she said coldly to Joe. Push him harder. Joe's smile returned. Oh, I intend to. The next morning, one of the farm tractors refused to start. Cain frowned. He checked the engine, nothing obvious. Too obvious. He looked toward the road. A figure stood watching from a distance. Graham. Cain walked over slowly. Well, it wasn't me, Graham said before he could speak. Cain searched his face. It's a warning, Graham added. They're escalating. Cain's jaw clenched. For a moment, the weight of everything, the farm, Moira, the diagnosis, threatened to crush him. Then something shifted. He straightened. Good, he said quietly. Graham blinked. Good. You want to test loyalty? Cain's eyes hardened. Let's test it properly. Meaning? You're going to help me save this farm, Cain said. Publicly. Make it clear where you stand. And in return? Cain hesitated, just briefly. In return, I stopped treating you like the enemy. A small, almost amused breath escaped Graham. High stakes. You in? Graham extended his hand again. This time, the handshake wasn't about suspicion. It was about war. Later that week, Cain visited Moira in prison. The sight of her black eye ignited something fierce inside him, but so did her smile. You look tired, she said gently. Been busy. She studied him carefully. You're hiding something. Maybe, he admitted. She reached across the table, squeezing his hand. Whatever it is, we'll face it together. For the first time in weeks, the knot in his chest loosened. Outside, the sky had cleared. Back at the farm, the sheep grazed peacefully. The machinery repaired. The walls reinforced. The Tates were still circling. But now, Cain wasn't alone. And somewhere deep beneath the exhaustion and fear, a stubborn spark of hope refused to be extinguished.